सत श्री अकाल नमस्कार मैं अभिके सर देख रहे हो द टीवी एनआरआई जिथे हर एक देश विदेश की खबर तुहाडे तक पहुंचाने की कोशिश करते हैं। लेकिन पहले दस दें कि जेकर तुसीं साडे यूट्यूब चैनल नूं हाले तक सबसक्राइब नहीं किया तो जल्द तो जल्द कर लो ताजो हर एक खबर तुहाडे तक समय सिर पहुंच सके। सो हुण रुख करते हैं कैनेडा दीआं कुछ खास खबरां वल। प्रधानमंत्री जस्टिन ट्रूडो ने यूक्रेन दे चल रहे रूस फौजी हमले दे विश्वव्यापी प्रतिक्रम बारे नाटो ਅਤੇ G7 नेतावां नाल मीटिंग तो बाद ब्रसेल्स बेल्जियम विच एक न्यूज़ कॉन्फ्रेंस की जिथे ट्रूडो ने रूस दे विरुद्ध वाधू उपावां दी घोषणा की जिस विच रूस फेडरेशन काउंसिल दे 160 मैंबरां ते पाबंदियां शामिल हन ਅਤੇ रूसी फौज दीआं समर्थावां नूं कमजोर करन दे उद्देश नाल कुछ चीज़ां ਅਤੇ टैक्नोलॉजी दे आधार ते पाबंदियां लगाउणा शामिल है।
Canada will be increasing pressure by sanctioning 160 members of the Russian Federation Council who facilitated and enabled this unjustified invasion, which brings the total of individuals connected to Putin who've been sanctioned by Canada. Today, we reaffirmed Canada's steadfast commitment to NATO. Canada leads the NATO Enhanced Forward Presence Battle Group in Latvia, which includes 10 NATO countries. And we've pledged up to 3,400 troops to NATO's response force, including air, land, and maritime capabilities. Earlier this month, we renewed our commitment to Operation Reassurance, the Canadian Armed Forces' support to NATO's assurance and deterrence measures in Central and Eastern Europe. In addition, since 2015, Canadian Armed Forces mission Operation Unifier has trained over 30,000 of Ukrainian security forces, which means that as we see the Ukrainian military standing strong against the Russian invasion, the brave women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces can take pride in knowing they contributed directly to that. European security is important to Canadian security, and so we are always grateful to the brave women and men of CAF who've deployed thousands of kilometers from home to help protect Euro-Atlantic security and stand up strongly for the values we cherish at home and around the world. The world has come together to impose unprecedented and punishing sanctions on Putin and his enablers. To continue to do our part to ensure that all leaders stand strong and united to support Ukraine against Russia, and that our resolve continues to stay strong for as long as it takes. Putin needs to know that there will be no erosion of our determination and that the catastrophic costs of our sanctions will only grow over time as they punish him and his friends. Got to sit down with fellow NATO leaders, fellow G7 leaders, and had direct conversations with President Michel of the European Council, a direct conversation with Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, and we got to hear twice from President Zelensky as he continues to demonstrate extraordinary leadership in the face of incredibly difficult situations. We'll be announcing the allocation of $50 million from our humanitarian aid contribution to the World Food Programme, the World Health Organization, the UN Refugee Agency, the organization People in Need, and the Canadian Red Cross.
NDP आगू जगमीत सिंह ਵੱਲੋਂ ओटावा ਵਿੱਚ एक न्यूज़ कॉन्फ्रेंस ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਸਿਹਤ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਚਰਚਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ओटावा ਦੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਪਲਾਈ ਅਤੇ ਵਿਸ਼ਵਾਸ ਸਮਝੌਤੇ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਅਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਾਰਮਾਕੇਅਰ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਬ੍ਰੌਡਬੈਂਡ ਅਤੇ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਸਮਰਥਕ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਏ।
What has been a historic victory for people, the fact that we've been able to use our power to secure dental care for people, to bring help to people in this difficult time is incredible. Before I get into that part of our announcement, I just want to reflect on the war in Ukraine. President Zelensky, who spoke in Parliament, has asked us to reflect on the fact that it's been 1 month since the war began. In his speech, he asked Canadians, he asked parliamentarians to imagine what it would be like to have our homes and our communities and the cities that we know across the country being attacked, tanks rolling in, being bombed. He asked us to imagine what it would be like to see schools and children's hospitals bombed and attacked, And he asked us to imagine what it feels like to try to explain to a kid what's going on, to try to explain to children why we're being attacked. And he asked us to imagine all of that, and then he asked for more help. So I want to reflect on the fact that it's been a month now since Russia's Putin's flagrant violation, illegal war, human rights violations that are going on. And I want us, again, to amplify the call for more help. I know that Ukrainians are coming to Canada, but they're not getting supports. The Ukrainian Canadian Congress has mentioned that people are coming here, but they don't have enough support to get connected with housing, to get connected with the job. And so this is a serious concern, and we're going to continue to push for that. More help for Ukraine and more help for people that are fleeing this humanitarian crisis. And today I do want to talk about the impact of what we've done. We've used our power to get help to people now. And in a world where people are feeling less and less safe because of a war, a pandemic that's lasted over 2 years, and then we've got the cost of living going up. This is real help that people have told me they need, and we've been able to deliver real help to people. And we're really honored and excited about what that will mean for people. The fact that we can get dental care started this year, to get people the help they need, to start with children under 12 who are the most vulnerable and who don't have coverage will get coverage. To make sure we expand that to children under 18 and to seniors and people living with disabilities in the second phase. And then in the third phase, to expand to everyone who needs coverage, who doesn't have it, the people who need it most who don't have it, and to make sure that they can get their teeth fixed. That is meaningful and that is concrete. And we've been asked the question, we often get the question, how are we going to pay for it? In the deal itself, we lay out one specific path to pay for it. That's to tax the excess profits of financial institutions and insurance companies that have been posting record profits in a time when people are struggling. And simply by making the government do what they promised to do, tax the excess profits with a surtax of 3%, we can pay for this program. And we're also talking about a plan that's going to save money for people. And we have Dr. Kaplan-Murth here who's going to talk about what this means for young people and how this is preventative care and how this is going to support people being healthier longer, which is going to save money in the long term, but most importantly, going to keep people healthier in the long term.
ਮੌਂਟਰੀਅਲ ਵਿੱਚ 3 ਪ੍ਰਾਈਵੇਟ ਕਾਲਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਦਿਵਾਲੀਆ ਹੋਣ ਕਾਰਨ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਜਦੋਜਹਿਦ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ, ਜਿਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਮਯਾਬੀ ਮਿਲ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਨਵੀਂ ਮੈਨੇਜਮੈਂਟ ਹੇਠ 3 ਕਾਲਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਮੁੜ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਏਗੀ, ਜਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਨੇ ਵੱਡੀ ਰਾਹਤ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਦੇ ਸੰਸਦ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਹਿਥਰ ਪਿਸੀਫੋਰਸਨ ਅਤੇ ਬਲੇਕ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਹਿੱਲ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਪੋਸਟ ਸੈਕੰਡਰੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਲਈ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਆਲੋਚਕ ਅਤੇ ਪੋਸਟ ਸੈਕੰਡਰੀ ਸਟਾਫ ਅਤੇ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਯੋਜਨਾ ਬਾਰੇ ਚਰਚਾ ਕੀਤੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਟੀਚਰਸ ਦੀ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਐਸੋਸੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਡਾ ਆਸਟਿਨ ਸਮਿਥ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਏ।
As many of you will know, at one time the federal government was an equal partner in funding with the provinces in providing support for higher education, but over the last 2 decades, much has changed. Federal transfers for post-secondary education are down 40%, less per student than they were 25 years ago. And over that same time, we have seen provincial funding declining as well. Alberta is a prime example. In Alberta, in the past 3 years, provincial governments have slashed post-secondary education funding. 1,500 faculty and staff have been laid off, and tuition fees have been raised by nearly $400 million. But it's not just Alberta. This is a problem that is affecting students, staff, and professors across Canada. Post-secondary institutions in this country are struggling. Last year, Laurentian University had to file for creditor protection. And this means that there are higher costs for students, higher costs for post-secondary institutions, and unfair labor practices for faculty and staff. Universities and colleges are increasingly resorting to precarious forms of employment, putting thousands of workers at risk and putting them into insecure, temporary, casual, or contracted out positions. What Bill 260 does is it allows for the federal government to once again be a player in post-secondary education. It ties strings to the funding that we give to the province, and that includes things like limiting federal funding to nonprofit institutions, preventing outside entities, including donors, from exercising undue influence over research, curriculum, and employment decisions, limiting the use of short-term contracts and casual labor, and ensuring reasonable access to academically capable students, regardless of their ability to pay. Post-secondary education is the key to our economy. It is the key to going forward in the 21st century, and this bill is a critical first step to restoring the federal role in post-secondary education. Today, everyone, I was extremely proud to table Bill C-260. It is the Canadian Post-Secondary Education Act. To give you a very brief explanation of that act, it is a piece of framework legislation that creates a separate post-secondary financial transfer to the provinces. This is an important first step in increasing funding for post-secondary education and ensuring that qualifying criteria are met by provinces in order to receive the federal.
BC ਵਿਚਲੀ ਇੱਕ ਗੈਰ ਮੁਨਾਫਾ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਮਾਈਗ੍ਰੇਂਟਸ ਵਰਕਰਸ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਜਾਰੀ ਕੀਤੇ ਤਾਜ਼ਾ ਆંકੜਿਆਂ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਮੁਲਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਰਜ਼ੀ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਵਰਕਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਅਤ ਰੱਖਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਸੰਸਥਾ ਦੇ ਤਾਜ਼ਾ ਸਰਵੇਖਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਇਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੱਡੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਸੀ ਜਾਂ ਆਰਜ਼ੀ ਕਾਮੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੀ ਇੰਪਲੋਇਰ ਹੱਥੋਂ ਵਿੱਤੀ, ਮਾਨਸਿਕ, ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਅਤੇ ਕਾਮੁਕ ਸ਼ੋਸ਼ਣ ਵਰਗੇ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਿਕਾਰ ਬਣ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਸਮੱਸਿਆ ਨੂੰ ਨੱਥ ਪਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕਈ ਸਿਫਾਰਸ਼ਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਨੇ। ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਵਪਾਰ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਮੈਰੀ ਐਨਜੀ ਨੇ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਅਤੇ ਯੂਕੇ ਦਰਮਿਆਨ ਇੱਕ ਨਵੇਂ ਵਪਾਰਕ ਸੌਦੇ ਤੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਐਨਜੀ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਦੋਵੇਂ ਦੇਸ਼ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰਿਕ ਵਾਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਕਾਰਬਨ ਕੈਪਚਰ ਅਤੇ ਸਟੋਰੇਜ ਕਰਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਦਦ ਕਰੇਗਾ। ਐਨਜੀ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਨਵਾਂ ਵਪਾਰਕ ਸੌਦਾ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਅਤੇ ਯੂਕੇ ਦੇ ਕਾਰੋਬਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਡਿਜੀਟਲ ਵਪਾਰ ਤੋਂ ਲਾਭ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਭਵਿੱਖ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਧਣ ਫੁੱਲਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਦਦ ਕਰੇਗਾ।
I am thrilled to announce that Canada and the United Kingdom are officially launching negotiations towards a new free trade agreement. Canada and the UK are going to negotiate a new benchmark agreement that will raise the bar for women, racialized and Indigenous peoples, as well as for small and medium-sized enterprises. Our government has made it a priority to focus on a progressive trade agenda that is inclusive and sustainable, an agenda that advances high standards for the environment and for labor, and one that helps our businesses thrive into the future by benefiting from digital trade. And we're thrilled to be doing this. Before we begin, I want to start by saying that Canada unequivocally condemns Russia's egregious invasion of Ukraine, which is a direct challenge to the rules-based international order. Let me be clear. Those who undermine the rules-based international order should not benefit from it. Canada's Ukrainian community number more than 1.3 million people. The current events in Eastern Europe are profoundly felt in homes and communities across Canada. And alongside our allies, Canada stands resolute against authoritarianism and with a democratic Ukraine now and in the future. Instructing our negotiators to be ambitious and to seek a modern, progressive, and comprehensive free trade agreement that best reflects Canada's and the United Kingdom's shared values. In 2021, the UK was Canada's third largest country trading partner in goods and services, with billions of dollars flowing between our two countries. About the importance of promoting rules-based international trade and strengthening supply chains by building on our trade relationship with the United Kingdom. Canada and the UK are going to negotiate a new benchmark agreement that will raise the bar for women, racialized and Indigenous peoples, as well as for small and medium-sized enterprises. Our government has made it a priority to focus on a progressive trade agenda that is inclusive and sustainable, an agenda that advances high standards for the environment and for labor, and one that helps our businesses thrive into the future by benefiting from digital trade. And we're thrilled to be doing this with one of our closest partners. Canada looks forward to negotiating an agreement that will benefit our economies on both sides of the Atlantic.
ਨਾਟੋ ਨੇ ਯੂਕਰੇਨ ਲਈ ਸਮਰਥਨ ਵਧਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਰੂਸੀ ਹਮਲਾ 1 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦੇ ਅੰਤ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਨਾਟੋ ਦੇ ਸਕੱਤਰ ਜਨਰਲ ਜੇਮਸ ਸਟੋਲਟਨਬਰਗ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਦੇਸ਼ਾਂ ਨੇ ਯੂਕਰੇਨ ਲਈ ਸਮਰਥਨ ਵਧਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਸਹਿਮਤੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪੂਰਬੀ ਯੂਰੋਪੀਅਨ ਦੇਸ਼ ਤੇ ਰੂਸ ਦਾ ਹਮਲਾ 1 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦੇ ਆંકੜੇ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਉਸਨੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ 1 ਲੱਖ ਅਮਰੀਕੀ ਸੈਨਿਕ ਪੂਰੇ ਯੂਰਪ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾਟੋ ਦੇ ਯਤਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਮਰਥਨ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ।
To face a new security reality. On land, we will have substantially more forces in the eastern part of the alliance at higher readiness, with more pre-positioned equipment and supplies. In the air, we will deploy more jets and strengthen our integrated air and missile defense. At sea, we will have carrier strike groups, submarines, and significant numbers of combat ships on a persistent basis. We will also strengthen our cyber defenses and enhance our exercises, focusing on collective defense and interoperability. I expect we will decide on the details at our next summit in Madrid in June. We have just finished an extraordinary summit of NATO leaders to address the biggest threat to our security in a generation, President Putin's war against Ukraine. The people of Ukraine are resisting with courage and determination, fighting for their freedom and for their future. We stand with them. President Zelensky addressed us with an impassioned message, thanking NATO allies for the significant support we are providing and stressing the vital importance of even more military assistance. Today, NATO leaders agreed that we must and will provide further support to Ukraine. We will continue to impose unprecedented costs on Russia, and we will reinforce allied deterrence and defense. Leaders approved our 4 new battle groups in Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia. These are in addition to the 4 already in the Baltic countries and Poland. So we have 8 multinational NATO battle groups now, from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea. Across Europe, there are 100,000 US troops supporting NATO efforts, and European allies and Canada have also stepped up. We have 40,000 forces under direct NATO command, mostly in the eastern part of the alliance, backed by major air and naval power, including an unprecedented 5 carrier strike groups from the high north to the Mediterranean. Allied leaders also agreed to provide further support to Ukraine, helping to uphold their fundamental right to self-defense. Allies are also equipping Ukraine with significant military supplies, including anti-tank and air defense systems and drones, which are proving highly effective.
यूएस ਦੇ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਜੋ ਬਾਈਡਨ ਨੇ ਬ੍ਰਸਲਸ ਬੈਲਜੀਅਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾਟੋ ਮੀਟਿੰਗਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਰੂਸ ਅਤੇ ਯੂਕਰੇਨ ਲਈ ਮਨੁੱਖਤਾਵਾਦੀ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਵਿਰੁੱਧ ਨਵੀਆਂ ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ। ਬਾਈਡਨ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਨਵੀਆਂ ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ 400 ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਵਿਅਕਤੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨਾ ਬਣਾਉਣਗੀਆਂ, ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿ $1 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਦੀ ਮਾਨਵਤਾਵਾਦੀ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਯੂਕਰੇਨ ਨੂੰ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਵੇਗੀ। ਨਵੀਆਂ ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਘੋਸ਼ਣਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਯੂਕਰੇਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਲਾਦੀਮੀਰ ਪੁਤਿਨ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਰੋਕ ਸਕਣਗੀਆਂ, ਪਰ ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਦਬਾਅ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਇਮ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਹੈ। ਬਾਈਡਨ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਨਾਟੋ ਯੂਕਰੇਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੂਸ ਦੁਆਰਾ ਇੱਕ ਰਸਾਇਣਿਕ ਜਾਂ ਜੀਵ ਵਿਗਿਆਨਿਕ ਹਮਲੇ ਦਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਦੇਵੇਗਾ, ਪਰ ਹੋਰ ਵਿਸਤ੍ਰਿਤ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਇਨਕਾਰ ਕਰ ਦੇਵੇਗਾ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸਨ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੁਝ ਖਾਸ ਖਬਰਾਂ। ਹੋਰ ਵਧੇਰੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਜੁੜੇ ਰਹੋ ਦਾ ਟੀਵੀ ਐਨਆਰਆਈ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਜੀ।
ਬਾਬਾ ਆਲਮ ਸ਼ਾਹ ਬੰਗਾਲੀ WhatsApp now 9878678679 लव मैरिज ब्रेकअप सॉल्यूशन लॉटरी नंबर खोया प्यार वापस पाओ पति पत्नी च झगड़ा प्यार तो धोखा तलाक केस, जमीनी झगड़ा, विदेश यात्रा, गुप्त वशीकरण करवाओ, दुश्मन सोतन खात्मा, मुठकरनी कारोबार बंदिया, घरेलू क्लेश, खबरदार काले इलम नाल मौत पक्की, साडे तो पहला हल करन वाले नूं 1 करोड़ रुपए दा इनाम, 24/7 ओपन चैलेंज, समस्या कोई भी होवे 100% गारंटी नाल जड़ तो खत्म, इमीडिएटली 101% रिजल्ट्स, 101 साल तो खानदानी बाबा, गारंटी असबान पेपर ते लिख के, 24/7 ओपन चैलेंज, मेरे किते नूं मेरे सिवा कोई नहीं कट सकता, स्पेशलिस्ट लॉटरी, सट्टे दा नंबर, महावशीकरण, इमीडिएटली 101% रिजल्ट्स, मनचाहा व्याह, प्यार पाओ, कोर्ट कचहरी, मुकदमा, अनपढ़ ते छोटी उम्र दे चेलियां तो बचो। आज ही संपर्क करो बाबा आलम शाह जी नूं। कॉल नाउ 9878678679।